Hello, YouTubers. It is Everyday Shenanigans, and thanks for joining me. It is early morning on Monday, January 6, 2020. Warm greetings from the high 10. I want to bring you a story deriving out of Bloomington, Illinois. It is about a young child who was found with wounds to her stomach exacted by her father's girlfriend, and I'm going to read you the following story. Cynthia Baker, 43, was convicted in the death of her boyfriend's daughter, who died from internal injuries, for prosecutors say attributed to blows Baker inflicted to the girl's stomach during ongoing severe abuse. During court, Baker lowered her head and cried when the verdict was read. Found guilty of murder, aggravated battery of a child, guilty of domestic battery, and child endangerment. The sentencing will resume on February 3rd of this year. She's eligible for life in prison because the jury found the murder to be heinous with wanton cruelty. Rica died in January of last year of peritonitis, ruptures of her intestines, according to testimony by the pathologist Dr. Scott Denton. Baker's own daughter testified she saw her mother kick Rica two times weeks before her death. Both were initially Miss Baker and the father were originally to be defense witnesses, but because Miss Baker sent a letter to Mr. Richard, the child's father, via from jail, stating she wanted him to lie and take the blame, he ended up not testifying in the said case. Okay, this next news clip is from WGLT, The Information. Antoinette Rountree is the child's mother, and last year her child died in January, and the girlfriend was arrested in April of last year for the said crime. Antoinette stood out last week, the Justice Center in the McLean County, and basically said she had no sympathy for Richard, and that there was a long custody battle between she and him, which ended up the child being with the said father, and he and the girlfriend had her for 2 years. Outside the law center, the mother held up a poster with injuries exacted by Miss Baker to Rica. A supporter, Darlene Hedrick, told the group that the court and the welfare system failed Rica. The mother was released in December, serving 1 year in prison for forgery, failure to complete probation, aggravated DUI, and now she was going by the name Antoinette Simmons, but now she has taken the Rountree last name because her daughter carries that last name. Miss Baker appeared in court with a new lawyer, saying she has received ineffective counsel from Todd Ringel. Baker's January 31st sentencing delayed until defense motion for a new trial is resolved. New court date is for February 24th. The mother is trusting the same system that failed her, but is hoping that it does not fail her family this time. She has been impatient with the justice system and feels like her daughter is dying again. Videos were given to the state's attorney from Baker's phone showing a frail child being forced to hold cans as she stood naked and shivering. There was also another second video showing the child shrieking and running away as she's being threatened by Baker. Rica's torture was confirmed by 50 scars noted in the autopsy report and was condoned by the father, according to text messages exchanged between Baker and boyfriend. Richard Rountree has not been charged in the daughter's death, and the case remains under investigation. So, I just want to make sure I'm bringing everything. Now, for my commentary in this said synopsis of this case. Due to the fact, wait a minute, I'm going to bring you another piece of information. I'm sorry about that. From News 25, This child had stated that she was afraid to go home, and she had a broken tooth and marks on her face and neck 9 months before her death. The school reported the injuries, but the report declared unfounded and said the child had hit her face on a medicine cabinet. 1 month before her death, she came to school with 2 black eyes in different stages of healing, which, when asked what happened, she said she had fallen onto toys. The Department of Human Services ordered Baker, the girlfriend, to take Rountree to the doctor, but she made excuses stating that the child was clumsy, refused to go get x-rays, and also that her medical card had expired and that she was too busy caring for her other children. After this said allegation, Miss Baker took her child and Rica out of the current school system and removed them and took them to another school. There have been numerous cases dating back to 2017 where the child was allegedly beat with a belt, but that case was unfounded by the Department of Human Services, and there were also 12 other cases on file at the time when the parents were married. The parents have a history of violence and drug usage. During the divorce settlement, the father was awarded custody and the child was sent to him late 2016. The child's death was January 26th of last year. The father and girlfriend said she had vomited for 2 days, collapsed and stopped breathing, and taken to normal, then flown by life helicopter to Peoria, where she died. At the time last year of these allegations against of the child being abused, the Department of Human Services said they had a pending investigation as of last March when they gave a statement that they wanted to be transparent with the public and reveal all said information. I didn't follow this story. I'm just now recapping all of this through various news sources. That was brought by News 25. I want to say this about this storyline. Will they charge Mr. Richard Rountree for participating in the abuse of his child, which did lead to the death of his child? He may not have participated in the actual blows to her stomach, which caused rupturing of her intestine, but they have proven that he witnessed the abuse, condoned the abuse through text messages with Miss Baker, the girlfriend. Did she see other family members? Miss Rica. Were there other family members involved, such from her mother's side? Was she able to visit other family members? I thought it was very crass for the defense attorney to say that she attended school and didn't appear to be critically ill because she attended school. I thought that was a very crass statement to make because that doesn't matter that she attended school. She was still being abused at the time. She lived with the father and was still attending school. I mean, hello, she went to school with black eyes, and you see she still attended school, so that didn't mean anything. Okay, how did it all come to this? Why didn't the father send her elsewhere since he and the girlfriend were making statements that they didn't want the little girl there? So why didn't he go find a place for the child? He didn't want to raise his own child. Why didn't he seek out the child's mother's family or other said family members that he had? So I'm curious to why he would continue to keep and raise a child that he obviously had issues with for whatever reason and continue to allow his girlfriend and himself to abuse the child. Okay. And what did the judge say, okay, about the custody? You know, the situation, it's just a bit much to me that all this time the child was being abused. There's information on telephones that said abuse and actual video footage of the child being abused. The child was going to school, abused with black eyes, marks on her face and her neck. There's a pending investigation as of last spring, but yet the lady removed the child and her child out of the school system, which we all know why she did that, because she felt like the heat would probably come, so I'll remove myself. But long as your name is in the system, you have a valid social security number, you can be found. And the fact that the father participated, which I think is the worst because he is the natural parent of the said child. And they also say they have proof that he aided and condoned the abuse exacted by his girlfriend to his child. These are African American people, the mother who's just released from prison, the father, the child, but the girlfriend is Caucasian. And I give you that information because I didn't relay that in the beginning. I apologize. I think this is a sad tale of abuse gone horribly wrong. You hear these cases all the time of said allegations made by someone about a child being abused. They go and investigate and they say, oh, I don't see anything. Oh, they're just disciplining their child. You know, whatever the reason is from the Department of Human Services. But then now you look up, that lady moved Rica and her own child out of the school system to another school district. And then they say they have no other pictures noting of the child before her death. So you have to ask yourself, you know, how worse did it get? Well, we can ascertain that it got very worse because she ended up dead. And you know, it takes a cold-blooded son of a something to kick a 8-year-old in the stomach. And it led to rupturing of her intestine. And she died shortly after, well, at least days later, because they're saying she was vomiting and yah. Well, if she was vomiting, why didn't you take her to the hospital? But anybody with sense could say they didn't take her to the hospital because they knew they were the cause. The girlfriend knew she was the cause of the vomiting. So she wasn't going to take her. So the child sustained internal injuries from her kicking her in the stomach. And this woman continued to allow the child to suffer in pain and vomiting, knowing she was the cause of the child regurgitating, and the child ended up finally being flown by Life Star from another hospital to where she died at the next location. This is a very sad tragedy, and you hear these stories all the time in our country of children being abused, the system letting them to continue to live in the said households with these people. Others will know of the situation but say nothing. And I don't understand why a parent or whomever takes in a child won't do the right thing and just hand the baton over to someone else who can help rear the child and do right by the child. And I don't know the whole situation with the parents' relationship, but it's obvious they had problems. They had alleged abuse, drug usage. So you see, that child and perhaps other children didn't stand a chance. It was also noted in this investigation that in this household where Rica lived with her father and father's girlfriend, that the other children witnessed Rica being abused and would walk by her as if nothing was happening. So you see, she obviously had two parents that she lived with that had a turbulent relationship. The mother ended up losing custody of her to this said father. The mother has done time in prison, jail, and to only come out to a deceased child. That would have to be horrific to know that you lost custody at one time and then somewhere down the line your child was being abused and you couldn't help your child because the state judge deemed you unfit to keep your child for whatever reason during your divorce settlement. And then the same person who gets custody of the child allows someone else to abuse his child, and also he is accused of abusing the child as well, and the child turns up dead. And one thing I can say about this sad and pathetic situation is that he and the girlfriend were discussing how they wanted her to be elsewhere through text messaging. Well, guess what? Richard Rountree and Cynthia Baker, they got their wish because Miss Rica Rountree is elsewhere because she is no longer living. This is Everyday Shenanigans. Thanks for watching, and until the next update, I will bring you the next information pertaining to this case. Have a good morning. Bye-bye.